Welcome to LANTITEPrep.com. In this lesson, you will watch a refresher lesson all about conversions to help you get totally prepped for your LANTITE exam. Without further ado, let's begin. So far, our past lessons have discussed fractions, percentages, and decimals. Now, on exam day, you will likely be asked to demonstrate your ability to convert one to the other. In this lesson, you'll become a conversion master. Let's start with converting fractions to percents. Now, the most simple way is to use a calculator. In case on exam day, the question provides you with an on-screen calculator, use it by simply dividing the numerator of the fraction by the denominator. Then multiply the result by 100 and you'll get the percent. Pretty easy, right? But what happens if there's no calculator allowed on this question? Well, no need to stress because you've got this. Before we unlock our super simple method, give this a shot. Convert the fraction 4/16 into a percent without using a calculator. When you're ready, come back to hear the solution. Great. First things first, we need to write what we know. We already knew the fraction 4/16, and we know that each percent is simply a number over 100. Next, we can start by cross-multiplying the two known factors. In this case, that's 4 and 100, which gives us, and then dividing that by the third known number, which is 16. To do this without a calculator, I'd use long division, where we then find our solution to be 25%. Well done with this section on converting fractions to percents. Now, let's move on to converting fractions to decimals. Now, similar to converting into a percent, converting from a fraction to a decimal is most easily done with the help of a calculator. If, for example, we want to convert 6/7 into a decimal, all we need to do is divide the top of the fraction by the bottom and read off the answer. However, there might be a question on test day that doesn't allow you to use a calculator, but that's no problem because I'll show you what that looks like now. Starting with 7/8. Remember, this really just means 7 divided by 8, so that's exactly what we'll do. I first write 7 divided by 8 into the long division format. But then, I notice that 8 can't evenly go into 7 one time. So what I'll do is simply add zeros after the decimal point. Now, I can carry on as if this were 7,000 divided by 8. I'll just have to remember to add the decimal point in at the end. Alright, so before I begin, pause the video here and try to solve the problem. Then, come back for the correct solution. Alright, great. Here's how I'd begin. First, 8 goes into 70 8 full times. Then, I'll subtract 70 minus 64, giving us 6. I'll next drop down the 0 and ask myself, how many times does 8 go into 60? And that's 7 full times. And 7 times 8 is 56. So I put that below the 60 and then subtract it, giving us 4. And again, we'll drop the 0 down and realize that 8 goes into 45 times. Now, it's important to remember to put the decimal place into the correct spot. Because the decimal from 7 has 3 numbers after it, we need to make sure our answer has the same. So we'll put the decimal right before the 8. And there you have it. Our fraction of 7/8 successfully converted into the decimal of 0.875. Excellent job converting fractions to decimals. Now, let's move on to learning how to convert percents to fractions. If on exam day you're tasked with converting a whole number percentage into a fraction, such as 13%, are you currently able to do that? Take a moment and write down what is 13% converted into a fraction. Ready? Recall that if we're given a whole number percentage, such as 13, we can simply put that number over 100 and it becomes a fraction. Now, More often than not, your exam administrators will ask you to simplify or reduce the fraction to simplest form, so make sure to double check what the question is asking for. In this case, 13 over 100 is already reduced to the simplest form. However, if you are tasked with converting 85% into a fraction and reducing it to the simplest form, can you do that? Take a moment to convert 85% into a fraction in the simplest form. Ready? Great. First things first, let's write 85 over 100. But notice we're not finished yet because this fraction can be reduced further. I'm going to divide the top and bottom by 5, and that will help us reach 17 over 20, which is reduced to the simplest form. Fantastic job so far. Moving on, how might you convert a number that is not a whole, such as 87.5%, into a fraction? Take a moment to have a think about this, using what we've learned so far, and come back when you're ready for the solution. Great. So we're going to start by writing our number, 87.5 over 100. Then we want to multiply both top and bottom by 10 because there is one digit after the decimal place. Great. So let's multiply the top and bottom by 10. And notice how this makes the top number much easier to work with. And finally, it's time to reduce this fraction to the simplest form. And now we're left with the reduced fraction of 7/8. The simplifying process took me 2 steps. It may take you more or less, but what's important is that you find the most simplified fraction. Also keep in mind that each time I reduce the fraction, I use the same number for the top and bottom numbers. Nice work on this. If you're sticking around, give yourself a pat on the back. That will help you ace your LANTITE exam on test day. Moving on to our next topic. You will likely receive a question asking you to convert percents to decimals. So let's get you ready for this. Now, the simple way to convert a percent into a decimal is to move the decimal point 2 places to the left and then add the decimal point and remove the percent sign. Also note that we most often add a 0 before the decimal. That works well when you have a percent in the hundredth place value. But how would you convert this? Here we have 9.5%. Take a moment to pause the video and use what you've just learned to convert this into a decimal. Excellent. Again, I'm going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. And notice that I'm starting where the decimal point starts, not directly before the percent sign. Now I'm going to update the location of the decimal 2 places to the left. Add the 0 between the decimal and the 9 to fill the extra space, and add a 0 in the ones place value. Now give this example a shot. Convert 325% into a decimal. Try it out. Push pause on the video and come back when you're ready for the solution. Great. I'm going to use the same tactic of moving the decimal point 2 places to the left and removing the percent sign. And there you have it. We've converted another percent to a decimal. Excellent work. Next up, you'll learn how to convert decimals to fractions, such as this, 0.875 as a decimal, which is also equal to the fraction 7/8. But how can we do this conversion? Let me show you now. First, write down 0.875 divided by 1. Then, we're going to multiply both the top and bottom numbers by 1000 because there are 3 digits after the decimal point. So that's 10 times 10 times 10, which equals 1000, as the number 5 is in the thousands place value. Notice how this process turns the top number into a whole number. Now, it's time to simplify the fraction, which will give us 7/8, which we looked at similarly in the percents to fractions lesson. Nice work on that one. And how about when there is a whole number, such as 4.85? Take a moment if you can convert this decimal into a fraction. Wonderful. Let's now see how it's done. First, we want to put the whole number aside for now. Then, just like in our previous step, we'll want to put this decimal over 1. Multiply both the top and bottom numbers by the amount of place values after the decimal. In this case, that will be 100, since 2 digits after the decimal point means 10 times 10 equals 100, which will result in a new fraction of 85 over 100. Next, we'll want to reduce the fraction to the simplest form by dividing each number by the highest number that can be divided into each 85 and 100, which is 5 in this case. And we arrive at 17 over 20. Now, we want to bring back the 4 from the original problem to make the mixed fraction of 4 and 17/20. Great job with this refresher lesson. Let's keep the momentum moving by giving you some practice for converting decimals to percents. To begin, let's remember that percent means per 100. So to convert decimals to percents, we'll want to multiply the decimal number by 100. Let's take a look at an example. Before we explain the solution, see if you remember how to convert. For example, 0.145 to a percent. Pause the video here and come back when you're ready for the solution. Great. What we'll want to do is multiply 0.145 by 100, which gives us 14.5. And remember to add the percent sign. And there you have it. That's converting a decimal into a percent. Now let's break here. Look at the problem on the screen. Is there an easier way to convert a decimal into a percent? I'd say the answer is yes. Instead of multiplying by 100, which sounds like a big task, you could also move the decimal place 2 times to the right, giving us the same answer of 14.5%. To make sure you've got this down, let's look at 3 more examples. Take a moment here to pause the video and convert these 3 decimals into percents. Great, using what we've just learned, the solutions would look like the following. 0.15 converts to 15%, 0.479 converts to 47.9%, and 2.68 converts to 268%. Conversions are an important part of the math section of your LANTITE exam. Want more practice? Get our full LANTITE test prep at lantiteprep.com. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you in the next lesson.